Hello ladies and gentlemen, let me welcome you to another PFI event. My name is Jakub Mašek. I am responsible for events at PFI. It is my great privilege today to welcome our two guests, Růžička, Chief of External Affairs of PPF Group, and then Vořechovský, CEO of VC Management. These guys know a lot about politics, geopolitics, finance, economics. So it will be really interesting discussion regarding the EU automotive industry, Chinese automotive industry, and trade wars.
I have a message for the coming U.S. Vice President, Elon Musk. Sorry, Mr. Wons. And it is that Elon Musk was until lately the largest beneficiary of subsidies within China's dual credit policy system. And the second is that it was the current Prime Minister of China, Li Qiang, who arranged that the Shanghai factory, gigafactory of Tesla has been built in such a short time, within I don't know, maybe 9 months. So he could be the largest beneficiary of the Chinese subsidies.
Just one add-on. The Fortune 500 companies are super dependent on China market and also on China subsidies. Next to Tesla, it's also Tim Cook and Apple. Currently, Apple is manufacturing 94% of global production in China. They are now trying to put it down to 90% by opening factories in Hyderabad, India. But without China, there is no Apple.
Okay, so let's start because we are short of time. Understanding China's history is the key to understanding present-day China. China was a dynastic empire for more than 20 centuries. Up until 1911, with a historical advanced state administration that characterized it. Interestingly, dynastic elements are reflected and remembered in many ways within the current regime. Modern China in the form of Republic of China was established in 1912 following the Xinhai Revolution, and the period from the founding of the Republic until the start of the World War II was characterized by both internal instability and prosperity, particularly during the 20s. In December 1912, Chinese Nationalist Party, Kuomintang, forwarded to the power. You can see here the very famous man in Chinese history. It's Sun Yat-sen. And the Chinese Nationalist Party formally took power after the election. In 1921, the Chinese Communist Party was founded, inspired by the mentioned October Revolution in Russia. And the country was plagued by numerous internal power struggles, leading to the First Civil War. The significant turning point in Chinese development was the Long March, an euphemism for the Red Army's retreat to northern China under Mao Zedong's leadership. Mao Zedong is on the picture. And this journey solidified Mao's position in the party as an untouchable figure for his ability to save the Red Army from annihilation. And the Civil War was interrupted in 1938 by the Second Sino-Japanese War, which became part of the Second World War. After Japan's surrender in 1945, Taiwan was returned to China. So the Republic of China continues on Taiwan, and the Civil War was resumed, ending with the Red Army decisive victory over the Kuomintang army. The remnants of the Kuomintang, along with millions of Chinese, fled to Taiwan, and in 1949, the Chinese Communist Party established a new state on the mainland, the People's Republic of China. And as a hero of the Civil War, a unifier, Mao Zedong automatically became the leader. And this period it was from 1949 to his death in 1976, and is marked by Soviet-style center planning with no market aspects and with high proportion of industrial production, especially the heavy industry, which is not normal for such a poor country. And Mao's rule culminated in the Cultural Revolution, which threw China into chaos and left it one of the poorest countries in the world, which we will be talking about in a while. Okay, and one of the most crucial factors of China's later development was the severing of relations with the Soviet Union in the 1960s, and the establishment of diplomatic relations with the United States in the beginning of 1970s, initially through secret diplomacy and then through Henry Kissinger's official visit in 1971. Henry Kissinger is on the picture. And the U.S. used the tension between Soviet Union and China to align China with its own side, resulting in the Shanghai Communique from 1972, which was the beginning of today One China policy and Taiwan's exclusion from United Nations. And this drove the wedge between China and Soviet Union, preventing formation of a large sphere of socialist influence from Central Europe to the Pacific. The relations between China and the United States remained cool and gradually improving over time, but it was the direction both countries followed after Mao's death.
If we think about, this decade, 70s, so they were marked by two events. First, that was just think about, so basically a big flip that two communist countries, Soviet Union and People's Republic of China, no more friendship, a slow, gradual sort of amitié with United States under Kissinger and Nixon. That's first big bullet point. Second bullet point is catastrophic economic situation. Similarly, to Soviet Union under Stalin back in 20s, there were so many, I would call it experiments. A little bit market economy, then everything socialized, then big leap forward, then the catastrophic cultural revolution. Where it ended China, one of the poorest country in the world. We looked on the data, and in 1978, so our friend Mao Zedong is on the deathbed, and Deng Xiaoping is back in grace, similar to Gustav Husak and similar to President Xi. His life was not going, linear upgrade from one position to another. He was purged. He was in very bad situation, but basically he inherited catastrophe. The real terms GDP 78 was $150. So much of the population live in real poverty. United Nations poverty is $1 or $2 per day, different counting, but basically $1 per day. The life expectancy was 62 to 63. Sorry, I have it there. 62, 63 years of age. People were dying like flies. Also, economy as a whole was smaller than Netherlands. So again, back in the 70s, Netherlands got 50 times smaller population than China. Still, the economy was larger. So it was one big disaster. What Deng Xiaoping did, he went on a study tour. He went to study tour to United States. It's famous trip to Iowa, Kansas, and so on. Deng Xiaoping with big cowboy hats, meeting American entrepreneurs and gradually opening the economy. And it created Chinese economic miracle of last 40 years. If we think about China last, let's say 80 years, we see three big positions. First one, Mao Zedong Stalinism, let's call it like this. Then 40 years of opening up. Yes, different president after Deng, and he was never president. It was Jiang Zemin, then Hu, then first mandate of President Xi. So this is era of magnificent improvement. Never in human history so many people were put up from poverty. Chinese economy boomed 53 times. So from 78 to 2013-15. So there was a magnificent growth just in last decade, and it was already slowing. The compounded growth of China was 130%. So 13% annual growth just over the decade. So unbelievable success, which changed China. Already 30 years ago, the story about China being t-shirt factory was sort of like, it was old story. Deng Xiaoping strategy back in 80s was that at the end of the decade, every Chinese shall have 4 products and have money for it. Bicycle, radio, sewing machine, and the fourth one was a fridge, maybe fridge. But basically, this was 80s. Then we have a era of 90s. China became factory of the world with cheap labor, cheap wages. Then under President Hu and Prime Minister Wen Jiabao, so new millennium, it became factory of the world for electronics, cheap electronics. And already we started to see the e-economy. The Alibaba, Tencent, and others were founded sort of 20-25 years ago. So it was super successful, and it ended sometimes 2017. 2017, President Xi is getting new mandate. We will talk about it, what happened, but I don't believe, and this is where we have a little, not disagreement, but where we have different opinions. I think that this opening up is over. We will talk about it, and automobiles are part of it. Still, even China of last 40 years was capitalistic country, Bismarck, sort of Dickensian economy, super low pensions, non-existent healthcare system. Everything, even now, it's for pay in Chinese healthcare system. So this brutal capitalism was combined with still socialist mentality. And this socialist mentality, 5 years plans, 5-year plans started by Deng till now. In every 5-year cycle, there are strategic elements what country shall achieve. There is this famous GDP targets, and also famous industries. There were an era of biotech, there were an era of electronics, there were an era of big factories, starting with, jeans and t-shirts, now cell phones, including Apple. One of these now is definitely electromobiles. Now, last 20 years. Now it's all about chips. If you look on a 5-year plan of China, chips, and they are getting pretty good at it. Bloomberg, or as you say, Doomberg, because Bloomberg now last 1 or 2 years is super, it's really like doomsaying about Chinese economy. So they are predicting that China will slow down because of not having good enough chips. They are changing like crazy. And I think in 2-3 years they will be independent on TSMC. So basically no more. This is my belief. Here I am well invested into Chinese chip companies. So let's see. But basically these 5-year plans are standard. Major indicators are improving. By the way, again, we will put both the paper and all the graphs on our Twitter and Substack, because so many, and we couldn't hit 60-minute target of our presentation. But basically, few Chinese ministries, especially Ministry of National Reforms and NDRC, and then Ministry of Industry and Information Technology, MIIT, are playing crucial role of preparing papers, research for State Council, and then of course General Secretary and the Politburo, the famous 7 for these 5-year plans. And when we also before this lecture we were debating whether we shall call it like really like subsidy-based plans. Yes, of course, the government is telling the economy, you know, what's the direction, and then state-owned banks, the famous 5 banks who are fully owned by at the end by the government, by the state, and then 13 so-called joint stock banks, they know where they should put money. But we think that we shouldn't call it subsidies, but we shall call it, as we call our presentation, strategic R&D money. Because still, you have these 5-year plans, so okay, let's now do automotive. Everybody will be doing automotive. But unlike United States, where you need to have a very good lobbyists in Washington, like Elon Musk is having, and also why he was supporting President Trump economically, Tesla and SpaceX, it's public money at the end. And if you look on a balance sheet, the subsidies, or so let's call it strategic R&D, it's full of it. In China, it's different. In China, you have a direction. Banks know where they shall put money, but nobody tell them exactly where. And this is basically what we see, and I saw it myself when I was living in Beijing and in Hong Kong. This quite smart strategic R&D planning combined with free trade zones, the original 4, Beijing, Tianjin, Shanghai, and Shenzhen, with regulatory sandbox. We, as a company, when I was working there, we lived under one regulatory sandbox created for mass market finance and fintech. And the automotive is similar. There are different regulatory sandboxes for factories to experiment. And at first, and this is where I give floor back to Dan, at first, when they created first 5-year plan for automotive, 100 companies were funded. So basically you have this kind of funding, but then it's a very brutal market game. Who will survive? We know it. Companies like NIO, going up and down. Companies like BID at the first, they were not doing any automobiles. Basically, they hop on a bandwagon of the strategy. So still, China is socialist economy with a 5-year plans. This is their strength till now. Let's see in the future. As I said, 40 years of opening up, I believe it's over. And now less private companies are on a thrive, state-owned enterprises are here again. Let's see. But we will have a debate at the end. So now let's move a little bit to China car industry.
Yeah, this is my part again. I subdivided this part into 3 parts. The first will be the development of the industrial car industry in the beginning, then transformation to electric vehicles, and the last part will be the current situation, especially the export boom. Under Mao rule, the Chinese automotive industry most of its time focused primarily on working vehicles and relied on Soviet technology. The very first Chinese automobile, you can see on the picture, developed independently by Chinese, was created in 1956 by Zhongguo Diyi Qishan Qituan Youxian Gongse, or first automotive works in English, and it was a medium-sized truck. Until 1980s, and the automotive sector was not a priority in central planning. So, and the first milestone was the first foreign automakers coming into the Chinese market. The first one was Jeep. In January, it signed agreement with Beijing Automotive, and it was followed by Volkswagen in October with Shanghai Tractor, which was the company producing tractors, not personal vehicles. Later, it changed to Shanghai Automotive, the largest Chinese car maker. The next key milestone was in 1987, when decision was made to make the automotive industry one of the key industrial sectors of the Chinese economy, or the pillar of the domestic industry. And this is the time of shifting the focus from the truck production to passenger vehicles. By the way, by 1987, there were about 150,000 personal vehicles in the whole country. The China had, I don't know, 700 million inhabitants. So it was extremely tiny market. By 1993, despite economic difficulties in the second half of the 80s and in the beginning of 90s related to inflation and delaying reforms and so on, there were already 1.4 million cars, but only 50,000 were privately owned. So it's really funny. Yeah, it was military. And today China has about 223 cars per 1,000 people. So the market has still very large market potential. We will see the picture in a while. And in 1994, within the ninth five-year plan, key reforms. Yes. Key reforms were implemented with a 15-year-long plan leading up to 2009. And among the main objectives were tripling the production. This was the first goal. The second goal was to become a global player. So this goal is more than 30 years long. The third goal was a long-term goal to domestically produce a small passenger car, so with local design and with no imported parts. And the fourth goal was increasing the share of local parts in vehicles from 45 to 95%. The very important part was that production was to be consolidated into 3 to 4 large international competitive automotive groups. In 2001, an additional goal has been added of 70% market share. Another very important part is that the foreign automakers had to set up joint ventures with domestic car makers to enter the Chinese market. And it was 50-50 in ownership with restrictions on fully built-up vehicles. So no assembly kits were allowed, and vehicles had to be manufactured on production lines. In 2001, China sold only 2.36 million cars. Meanwhile, General Motors sold 8.6 million cars. So we can see that the Chinese market is still underdeveloped in the beginning of the century. What was the state at the beginning of the century? China had no domestic brand capable of that would be capable of competing with foreign automakers. And certainly it was impossible to fulfill the goal by 2009. The government also recognized that the country is unable to surpass German, Japanese, or American automakers in the segment of ICE technology, internal combustion engines, and in hybrid vehicles, Japan had already clear advantage. So now it's time to move to the second part of this part, and we leave the traditional automotive segment and move to the year 2001, which was crucial for the development of new energy vehicles. New energy vehicles is a group that is composed by battery electric vehicles and so-called plug-in hybrids. Why only plug-in hybrids? It's very easy. Plug-in hybrids are the only kind of hybrids that can drive only on electric energy. So this is the reason. In the early of this century, the first domestic brands began to emerge, not in the segment of an EV, but in general in ICE. And China acquired the first foreign brands, MG and Rover, which continued in China as a Reve. And in 2010, Geely acquires Volvo. Betting on a completely new technology made perfect sense for China. With IC and hybrid engines, China couldn't only all to catch up with its competitors. However, in electric vehicles, everyone was essentially starting from the same baseline, while companies like General Motors and Toyota were experimenting with electric vehicles in the beginning of the century. It was only minor focus. So China wanted to make its automotive industry a showcase, had a far greater motivation to take the risk and invest in new technology. And once again, a 5-year plan came into play here, specifically the 10th 5-year plan, which prioritized EV-related technologies and EV technology as a priority science research project. China had also some structural advantages for this development. It has a sophisticated supply chain, it has manufacturing capacity and affordable commodities, especially for battery production. And by the way, over time, another symbiotic reason, and you know very well about it, emerged because after joining the WTO in 2001, and experiencing rapid industrial growth, pollution in Chinese cities worsened so dramatically that it was almost unable to live there. So this was another reason why to begin develop the electric vehicles. And this is the man who is behind all the development. This is Wang Gan, which has been named Minister of Science and Technology in 2007, and it was him who convinced the party to take the change and make electric vehicle development an absolute national priority.
Tell his background.
Yeah, he was an engineer in Audi, in Chinese Audi, not in German Audi, and he was a electric vehicle enthusiasts. He fell in love in a Tesla Roadster, which was the first model by Tesla. So he decided that China needs to be electrified. And the first move was in 2008, where car industry adjustment and revitalization plan has been introduced by President Hu Jintao, which was the first specific program targeting new energy vehicles development, and also relatively small in financial scope. It provided support for buses, for taxis, for passenger cars, and it was benefiting both manufacturers and buyers. Also, it was based or prepared especially for manufacturers. The part of the plan was also procurement contracts that guaranteed the market for electric vehicles in public transport. And here you can see that China followed a standard approach in their economic plans or projecting. The first part is to create a long-term framework plan with specific goals. Mostly it's for more than 10 years. Then they implement the central level measures and allow the provinces to realize the plans as they like. And then the third part is that they continuously updating the plan and adding new goals and measures. And here also we can see how the plan changed from incentive-driven to market-driven. We will see it in a while. Major changes coming in 2012 and 2013. 2012 has been a new program introduced, the energy efficiency or energy saving and new energy vehicle industry development plan for the next 8 years. And it had 3 base goals. The first was to expand production of new energy vehicles. You can read it on the paper. The second part was, our second goal was to become a world leader in electric vehicles, batteries, and hybrid propulsion technologies. And the third goal was to reduce the average fuel consumption of new vehicles to a maximum of 5 liters per 100 kilometers by 2020. 2013, a large subsidy program was introduced to support the development. Manufacturers could apply for rebate subsidies up to 60,000 RMB per car, which is about 200,000 Czech korunas, so it's not little. And for buses it was even more. Then additional tax benefits were introduced for buyers. In China, for example, for when you buy an EV, you may not pay vehicle purchase tax. Then you have in ICE vehicles, registrations are rationed in Chinese cities, so they're in limited availability. And new registration were free and hassle-free. The most funny part, especially for external viewer, comes in 2015, because as is typical for each subsidy program in China, a huge scandal has emerged. 72 out of 93 reviewed manufacturers were found guilty of various levels of fraud, and it was including the famous state-owned automakers like SAIC. On the other hand, this was also the beginning of a change, and really the situation in this segment changed from incentive-driven to market-driven. We could see it in 2018 with coming a new system, which was based on two pillars. The first one was dual credit policy system, which is very similar to credits used in, for example, here in the European Union or in the United States. So direct subsidies ended in this year and were replaced by dual credit policy, which is corporate average fuel consumption target and an EV target in numbers. So starting in 2018, automakers who fail to meet free fuel consumption standards can offset negative credits with energy credits they generate or by purchasing such credits from companies that produce new energy vehicles. And if they are unable to offset their negative credits, they cannot sell the ICE vehicles that are not non-compliant. The second pillar was to open the market to competition. So this was in three phases. The first one was in 2018, where the market was opened in the segment of new energy vehicles. 2 years later, it was for commercial vehicles, and 2 years ago, it was opened for passenger vehicles in ICE sector. And this is in fact the end of state-level subsidies, and we can move maybe to sum up the development. The state, or the central government, provided approximately 200 billion RMB in subsidies and tax relief to the new energy vehicle sector. It's probably more, as the actual amount could be much higher, because it doesn't include the subsidies and some programs on the province level, which were also huge. So nobody knows, in fact, how large the program in fact was. We've already talked about all the measures, so I will skip it. And we can move to the large part, to the last part, sub-part of my part, which is the current situation. Since 2009, China has been the world's largest automotive market, now by a significant margin. And the last year, the auto industry contributed 10% of China's GDP, making it strategically important industry. By the way, in Germany, it's only 5%. So now the car industry is much more important for China than for Germany. Also, China is the largest automotive market. Car ownership per 1,000 people is still low compared to international standard. So there is a huge potential for the development of the home market. By the way, you can see that India has only 33. And when I come back and look at here, India had in 2002 about 10 people. So it's India has grown by three times. Meanwhile, China has been growing, it was more than 10 times. If India is the new China, I'm not sure, really. Chinese brands now account about 21% of the global vehicle sales. And as you can see in the projection, this share is expected to grow, but in fact, nobody knows how large it will be. Last year, as you can see on the chart, China sold over 30 million cars, in final surpassing the record from 2017, after which sales declined until 2020, and the market rebounded there and grown to 30 million the last year. While the record was achieved under very different market conditions, in 2017, ICE sales dominated at 97%, but in 2023, 3 Chinese cars sold was a new energy vehicle, and this year the share of new energy vehicles on sales are approaching to 50%. Now it's about more than 40 and it's still growing. And as you can see, very important for the total number were exports. By the way, as you can see on this chart, the market structure completely changed regarding automakers and brands. And the significant rise in new energy vehicles has brought new automotive groups and brands into the market, reshaping existing ones. Here you can see the 4 largest Chinese state-owned company groups, which is SAIC, First Automotive Works, Dongfeng, and Changan. And also they are still big, they do not dominate the market anymore. Today, the largest Chinese automaker is BYD. By the way, it doesn't mean build your dream. Really, it doesn't mean build your dream. It means nothing. And BYD plans to sell over 4 million vehicles this year. 4 years ago, BYD wasn't even in the top 10, as you can see on the chart. The chart on the right side is from the 2020, and the chart on the left is the sales from the last year, in the summer. So both of these charts demonstrate how massively the market has changed in time, but in very short time. Among the other important Chinese automotive groups, here you can see on the left there are privately owned automotive groups. On the right side are 3 traditional state-owned automotive groups, and I suppose that you won't know any brand, maybe only a few of them. But maybe you should accustom to it because they are coming to Europe as well. For example, at least in Germany, NIO is Lithium is not there, Xpeng is there, IFE is in the bankruptcy, Ion is not there, Hosan is not there, Ora is sold in Germany. This is a special brand of Great Wall Motors for electric vehicles. And Leapmotor, this is a very interesting new company which is coming to Poland. It's cooperating with Stellantis. Foreign automakers are also among the losers in China, especially the Kia and Hyundai, Chevrolet, Ford and Suzuki. Here you can see the sales in 2013 and 2023. In 2013, the Volkswagen has been dominated the market with 2.4 million sold cars, but in the last year it sold less cars than 10 years ago. Look on Škoda issue. Yeah, Škoda is in fact leaving the Chinese market and is focusing on Indian market now. Suzuki already has left China. By the way, Suzuki was among the first incomers in China, so it's among the first who are leaving.
Maybe if I may generalize this chart, red is losers, blue is up. Very simplified. Chinese know well how to do mass market. They don't know luxury. Another line that look on, who is the biggest winner? Mercedes. Mercedes is going up brutally because luxury maybe in future, not now. But if you are mass market brand, Škoda Simply Clever, you see the problem. The same with Japanese and Koreans. So basically, both ICE and electric vehicles, if it's mass market, China is better, cheaper, they don't need foreigners anymore. Luxury, this is still okay. Let's see what will happen.
By the way, here you can see that BYD has a brand called Denza, which was developed in cooperation with Mercedes. It's their luxury brand, but Mercedes-Benz this year has left or this joint venture, so it's developing independently now. This year, China exported over 4 million vehicles in the first 8 months, with year-over-year increase of 27%, and is expected to export over 6 million vehicles to more than 100 countries. You can see on this chart that China is now the largest car exporter in the world since the last year. And very important to mention is that 3/4 of exports are ICE vehicles, and only a quarter are EVs. Also, it's increasing. The share of new energy vehicles is increasing. And among the largest, as you can see in the chart on the right side, are the state-owned companies, just because the ICE dominate the exports. And the main reason for this structure, why the ICE dominates, and for the rapid growth, you can see on this chart. Because Russia is the largest export market by far. And in Russia, especially the lower-priced ICE vehicles dominate. And EV market share is almost negligible. So China filled the gap left by foreign automakers after the Ukraine war started in early 2022. Here in this chart, as you can see, this is a regional structure. Yeah, this is a regional sales structure, and in the red frames on the top, you can see how quickly the Russian market expanded. Now there is 24% share on the Chinese exports. It's absolutely dominant. The second is the Latin America or South America and Mexico with 19%, 15% is Middle East, 15% is Europe, and 10% is Southeast Asia. And this is my last chart. Here you can see again on the picture production capacities of Chinese industries. There are 7 industries. And the EV, probably you will read it, is Yeah, on the chart you can see that the columns show the balance between supply and demand, or capacity versus demand, and the EV is a very tiny overcapacity now, but in fact when you look at the structure of the market, you can see that in fact the companies that are growing the fastest, like BRE, like Ito, and other new brands, they have not enough capacities and are really struggling to increase them. Average price of cars produced in China is $19,000, which is about half of what is normal in the United States and Europe. And this chart brings us finally to trade wars, because Chinese car exports are among the key problems for European and U.S. domestic markets.
I will simplify it for you. It's just this chart. Everything is here. This is not linear change. This is brutal disruption last 2 years. That's why everybody is in panic. It's super simple. I know it's Russia, but because war. But this is the disruption. I will show you that it's definitely not Viktor Orban being big friend with President Xi. It's everywhere. So basically, if this chart, if we do hockey stick in the next 3 years, it's a catastrophe. It's already becoming catastrophe. That's why I do believe that trade wars in automotive are inevitable. If I don't want to talk much about theory. So, these 5 concepts can tell us about the trade wars. Liberal economic theory, old-fashioned Adam Smith and Ricardo and others talking about the tariffs lead to dead weight loss, whereas the economy and consumers suffers, lower choice, higher prices. Unfortunately, nobody believes in this anymore. So if there are still some believers of this, it's more institutional liberalism of WTO. But this is away. If we look, and if anyone's interested, I will try to put it online. I have a data from Republican Party. It's a Pew data from September, so 2 months before elections. Very granular data about what American believes in, not Donald Trump, but American believes in. Nobody believes in globalization in America. Not even Joe Biden's people, and this is the third concept, which is strategic trade theory. So basically you are protecting industries you need. This is basically chip war, semiconductor war. So you are protecting your industry, you are brutally subsidizing. This is US now. US national trade representative now, so Democratic Party, Katherine Tai, she is a creator of famous Inflation Reduction Act. It's a protectionism. And the vehicle, brutal one. Not even democratic voters believe in WTO anymore. Then the fourth concept, realism in international relations. This is going one step far from strategic trade theory. So very simplified. Okay, if I have a lithium in my country, so it's a strategic asset of national security, like President Vučić now in Serbia and lithium. Big fight about who will do this. President Xi was crying like a baby, I think, that he didn't get it at Rio Tinto. And the fifth one is mercantilism, traditional, old-fashioned 17th century mercantilism. So basically believing that wealth and trade is finite. It's not infinite concept. It's a binary approach. This is Donald Trump. Donald Trump, he's not in national security. Yes, of course, these concepts are there, but his very open beliefs, if you look on Donald Trump 40 years ago, Japan versus United States trade war back at the end of the 80s. This is what he believes in. So basically we need to protect our own, not only against our enemies, these other theories, but also against our allies. So this is his strong belief. This is also a belief of Robert Lighthizer and the others. So this is just the theoretical concept. Again, we have a lot of pages about it for you guys. I will also simplify. I try to study some examples to have some quantitative data. So one problem is old-fashioned, Great Depression in 1929 and American reaction. We are still before Franklin Delano Roosevelt and the New Deal. Brutal protectionism of United States and now it's decades ago, so we have a finite data. It prolonged the Great Depression. So what Americans did, unblock tariffs 60% up. So basically they destroyed export, they destroyed their own exports, so US exports in the 30s fell by 50% unblock, 50%. Complex industries that, America those days it's not America today, agriculture was still big chunk. So it completely destroyed American agriculture that was focused on export, especially to Latin America. It destroyed completely, it prolonged. Now data shows the Great Depression by 3-4 years. America healed itself in the Second World War, not before. So that's example number one. Example number two is about us. US-EU steel fight on Trump. So data showed us that when Trump imposed 25% tariffs on steel and 10% tariffs on aluminum because of national security, Ford and General Motors were the victims. Because for them the prices went up. America was not able to change the production capacity overnight. So at the end, Peterson Institute, a very good economic think tank in Washington, they believed that all of this kicked 3.5 million of jobs. And also when Trump started subsidizing its own industry, every single job saved for American people cost consumers $1 million. Single job. I think if they would give them just pocket money, it would be much cheaper. So it didn't work at all, and it hit US. It hit, for example, Harley Davidson started producing in Europe because of this trade war problem. The jobs, the tariffs increase also domestic steel prices for real estate construction by 9%, so really critical problem. Final one, US and China. So Trump created a large attack on China. It was $300 billion worth of goods on China. Chinese retaliated. Who was hit? Again, for example, agriculture and SMEs. Big guys.
This is the famous largest trade agreement in the history.
Yes.
Yeah, this is the one.
Yeah, this is the one. So basically, the big guys like Elon Musk and Tim Cook, they were okay. If you buy Apple, designed in California, produced in China. SMEs, so backbone of American Midwest, was hit. So it's a little bit funny that now Midwest is voting for Trump, but economically, 8 years ago, agriculture, small exporters, they were hit by this big time. So all three examples I'm showing, it does. If we believe only in pure liberal economic theory, so mercantilism as he believed, or liberal or institutional, it doesn't work. Yes, we can support theoretically and practically tariffs from national security perspective. This is the problem of nearshoring and friendshoring. Now everybody's talking about it. Let's see what will happen. Obviously, it will hit the companies and it will hit consumers as well at the end, because the pricing will be put on consumers. So these are two theoretical / examples approaches. Now we have a Donald Trump, as I said, was done. We created 2 papers. We burned one yesterday. So, and I was reading a lot of materials even today on the way from Serbia, where I was still till lunchtime. So, what's very probable? So, economically, he will start with China. He will start with Iran even before that. I do believe, or not only me, but a lot of strategists believe that because Joe Biden now that there is no more elections, Biden is pro-Zionist, he is pro-Israel for sure. So I think Ayatollahs in Tehran has a real problem right now. Especially Bibi sucking Yoav Gallant, still moderate Minister of Defense. I think even before Christmas, Iran will be hit. China will follow. There will be blanket tariffs 20%, very probable a wide range of goods. And then will be specific tariffs on the automotive, 100%. So 100% tariffs. Also national security ban on complete prohibition on Chinese companies investing in U.S. EV ecosystem, batteries included. Legislation is already prepared by Lighthizer to support domestic production, so there will be this strategic R&D more and more, supporting Tesla, obviously. Let's see whether anyone else. A big win for Elon. There will be tax breaks in the legislation. I read the draft from my Republican friends. Also support to ICE. Incentivization to build everything domestically. So no more, friends and allies, Mexico or whatever. Then there will be decoupling. They are preparing 4-year plan to phase out on essential Chinese imports. Chinese are basically, by the way, preparing for it. Where Chinese are building their factories now, not only automotive and that's it. Mexico. If we look on a map say why? Because it's part of NAFTA. Yeah, of course, it's part of NAFTA. And of course, there is no China then, so there is no tariffs. So that's the strategy of Chinese. But basically, they want to phase out all essential sectors, automotive including. There will be CFIUS. CFIUS is organization in U.S. that basically screen foreign investments. So what we know about Qualcomm and others, it's going to be more and more. So there will be bans on dual-purpose material. There will be bans on export, anything connecting to chips, AI, and so on. And of course, the rhetorics will be brutal. What he will do to us, probably. So, unlike Biden and Kamala, he will try to negotiate one-on-one with European leaders, not with Brussels. So he believes in a Medici style of negotiation. So he will talk directly to Orban, he will talk directly to Tusk. Tusk, by the way, has a real problem because the Hudson Institute, dear friends, they put online yesterday Tusk tweets 8 months ago about Trump. It's not a nice tweet. And John Jr. and Eric Trump was commenting. So let's see what will happen to Poland. Trump has 3 countries that he really, really don't like. China, Mexico, Germany. So that's the real problem. Let's see what will happen now if we have a snap elections. Friedrich Merz was talking today that he would like to have elections already in January. Of course, if there would be CDU-CSU government sometime in February, it's good for us as well as Czechs. I don't think that we would like to see Germany even more on its knees. So he will negotiate directly. He has proposed 25% tariffs on European automotive en bloc. There will be also, so this will hit us, Germans, Czechs. French, he will hit agricultural exports, imports. So this is prepared as well. Let's see what will materialize, but these documents are ready. Unlike first Trump administration, when administration was filled by people who didn't support their own boss. And we can call it they supported constitution, not the president, we can call it, but there were people who are slowing his agenda. Of course, let's see who will be there now, but don't believe that there will be people who he has beef with. I'm not even sure about Nikki Haley. Nikki Haley turned around, but will she have an important position? I don't believe that. Let's see who will be Department of Treasury boss. There are a few private equity hedge fund guys who emerge on Financial Times today. Let's see. Let's see who will be U.S. National Trade Representative.
About Mike Pompeo?
Mike Pompeo for sure he will be back. For sure. Rick Grenell, National Security Advisor, etc. He doesn't like WTO at all. For him, WTO, it's enemy. He will be playing with potentially with law. from WTO completely. On security, 2% GDP NATO, it's absolute minimum. He will definitely test Mark Rutte's ability to survive, because Mark Rutte, our new Secretary General of NATO, was Prime Minister of Netherlands for 14 years, not a single time 2%. And by the way, this 2%, if you look into communique from NATO summit in Wales, so you can even include to these 2% pensions of soldiers. So basically it's very free. It's definitely not that you are buying 2% GDP for guns. It's pensions, it's veterans, it's military health care. So he will be very, very open about this, what we shall pay for. He is definitely thinking about completely destructing Ramstein base in Germany. By the way, they are building now a big base in Constanza, in Romania. So this is what he will do. He will be very sector specific, and this is positive. So I know few very personal friends of Donald Trump, Mar-a-Lago people. They told me, let's see what he will do about Ukraine. He wants to win every time. If you read Art of the Deal, he's behaving all the time the same way. Chinese believe that they can lure him with pampering his narcissistic ego. How President Xi was biggest mistake. I think that President Xi did two big mistakes: Itailu, One Belt, One Road, and underestimating Trump. They are preparing, by the way, this is new information, it's already leaking. They are preparing, he will offer to the world Christmas truce between Zelensky and Putin. That basically, let's enjoy the Christmas, both Western Christianity and Orthodox. How about we will do ceasefire for 3 weeks on the battlefront? If Putin say no, and it's not in his, it's not fruitful for Putin to say no, because now he's, the battlefield is moving in his direction positively. So he will have a real problem, because Trump, then he starts seeing red. If they will do it, it's going to test everything pretty soon, even before he will join administration. It's 20th of January. So he will try, and I think it's smart to test the waters before. Let's see what will happen. So this is what Trump will do to us. What we are trying to do to Chinese, we are trying to do climate package. We are trying to do Fit for 55. We would like to, use a shotgun and to shoot our boss' legs. So I don't want to talk about Fit for 55. Let's see. Do I believe that what we call ESG in regulation called CSRD directive, will this prevail? For sure, because this is not the Green Deal. This is non-financial reporting. This is happening. This will happen. The policy is a Green Deal. There, I hope to see some changes, because if we will be in trade war with Chinese and then trade war with Americans, God being with us. But there are already tariffs on ICE manufacturers. Now, European Union is investigating Chinese imports for EVs, claiming unfair subsidy practice. Unfortunately, we are EU, we are not Donald Trump, so we cannot wake up tomorrow and start tariffs. We have an investigation. This investigation can be prolonged. Pedro Sanchez is brutally against, Olaf Scholz, of course, as well, Viktor Orban, Christian Lindner, of course, now over. So there will be time of this investigation. If the investigation will be finished by unfair subsidy practice, there will be tariffs. Tariffs are prepared 10 to 35%. If we put tariffs to 10 to 35%, China will for sure retaliate, for sure will start trade war with us as well. Whether they will hit the German manufacturers or French luxury products, let's see, I don't know. There is a debate about these European champions. But there is a problem, that European champions won't be probably in Czech Republic. That will be in Germany and France. So that's the issue as well. So I think that now the king is naked in form of Europe, and now I'm talking about trade wars. If we talk about strategic R&D, we are nowhere in a similar spot as the Chinese and Americans. I already mentioned that if we hit, as Europeans, Chinese automotive exports, they will be very probably brutal. They don't need us anymore. At the end, they don't need Mercedes. And one more important thing, President Xi is Marxist believer. It's not like Putin that the ideology is just facade. He really is very thoughtful Marxist, and he doesn't think that it's the future of Chinese people is driving Mercedes, and so he doesn't care. And if you remember what Dan was showing you, only Audi, Mercedes, Rolls-Royce, etc. are going up. So whatever, he hit them.
It was the right comrade drives only small car.
Yeah, a right comrade drives only small car. By the way, this is official China policy at least. So this frugality of now, this is a President Xi post-COVID, big feeling. Tomorrow we will put our podcast online about Chinese retail and consumer market. It's destruction because of this feeling. Chinese are not consuming. But it's not only about trade war, it's about rare elements. Rare earth elements in China, they can ban the sale to the West. It will create problem with lithium and graphite. And also supply chain disruption because it's Chinese who are manufacturing batteries, not us. Not only that, Chinese has other interesting ability how to jump over anything what Ursula will hit them with. This is a pricing. You see the window of opportunity our Chinese friends have on the European market. Even with very high tariffs, there is plenty of space. Their profitability is so different to Volkswagen or Skoda. And we are talking really about BID, modern, super nice cars. The technology is really good. So if we start trade war, this can be the answer. Because if they dump prices here, and it's a dumping, they don't need to dump, they just dump the profit. So that's the first problem. Another problem is that we start liking Chinese cars. This is market share here. And that data from 7 months ago, you see the future, but it's very simple. What is blue is China. So you see that they are able to not only to have a price war, overall trade war against Louis Vuitton and Moet Hennessy, but they are here and we are start liking them. What I meant, what I said 2 minutes ago, it's oligopoly / monopoly. Chinese monopolized two industries. Solar, 85% of global production, anything that goes with solar, is China, and batteries. Chinese are really, really good at batteries, and this is the world's top market share. Yeah, so you see Chinese first two, so just two companies from China, they have more than 50% of global market. So this is another problem for us. Another problem for us is that Chinese are here. Dan mentioned Volvo. This is already old tune, 14 years ago, but they are here well established, so they are European producers. They are not Chinese, they are locals. And it's not only Viktor Orban. You see that, big friends of the West from Poland, there will be big factories very soon. Italy, Spain, Germany, real factories. And if we believe that Chinese are smart learners, and they are, Dan mentioned that 20 years ago, when we started dominating Chinese market, Chinese told us, cool, but not just assembling, manufacturing. So yes, now Ursula is thinking about, okay, we know that they are building factories, but for sure this is going only to be assembly lines. So if, I don't know, 35, 50, 60% of production won't be local, still we will hit them with tariffs. So they will produce here. There's no problem, again, with this massive profit window. So they are here, not only in urban land, but everywhere. If I summarize, so what we can do as Europeans, unfortunately we cannot do much because we have a lame duck government in Germany. So next 6 months there won't be any move in Germany. We have very not able to do anything. Macron in France, so two biggest European economies are hit by internal domestic political infighting. Keir Starmer in UK, I don't think is a success story of last 3 months economically, and I understand, you know, after 14 years of Tory government trying to be open to business as much as possible without much success because of Brexit, because of COVID. Now socialist Labour want to do something different. I don't think it's even possible to have a higher taxes than in upcoming UK. So they are not competitive as well. So three biggest economies in the problems. Italy is capable, so I think that not Viktor Orban, but if somebody will be our big communicator on both ways, both to Chinese and both to Donald Trump, is going to be Giorgia Meloni. I think she is one of the key players now for this. Not Orban, because Orban is too small, the weight is not there just. And let's see what will happen in Germany in 6 months, of course. Now I'm talking about now. Trade war will hit especially us, because US and China, they are markets on their own. Chinese, yes, domestic market is not working well, but they are able to export to Russia and third markets. China, by the way, again, after 15 years of playing with trying to change the economy from export-driven to domestic-driven, it's again export-driven. So China now, it's again big state-owned enterprises or semi-public-private enterprises funded by local banks for export. But export is not the t-shirts, export is renewables, automotive, electronics, again. China even now, and it's not only Apple, it's Xiaomi, Midea, Hisense and other brands. So really good high-end electronics, also middle brands. So this is a third, and final, very soon chips. So basically these are t-shirts of China now and for future. They are trying to do something about real estate. Let's see what will happen. Demographics is against them, but they are able definitely to swallow the trade war. America is able to swallow trade war because it's America, because there is a dollar and so on. So again, if trade war will start, we will suffer especially. So this is from me from this side. So we will open discussion, but before it, Dan will say a few words about what we think that will happen to China. More graphs, I don't want to go through them. Losing competitiveness of China. These are new data about energy pricing. US, China and Germany as the largest economy in Europe, it's catastrophic even for future. We can talk a lot about our trading, not necessary, and we can talk about what's in the title of our presentation called strategic R&D. We are not competitive to Chinese with their huge subsidizing in these 5-year plans, but also this is a McKinsey graph, new one, about R&D, European versus US companies. Again, they are much more supporting R&D. The only industry where we are competitive with both is pharmaceuticals. Pharmaceuticals and biotech is the only one, and yes, luxury product. If you look the largest European companies, it's stunning. You have LVMH, you have Getinge, and others, and Novo Nordisk. So basically, if I will finish this anecdote, so two our largest European companies are for export. We are selling the handbags to Chinese and insulin to obese Americans. Novo Nordisk. Yeah, lot of graphs here, lot of graphs, no need.
What do you have to say to the end that China is in a transition period, as we can see on several charts now. It had a lot of aspirations to become a new leader in new segments, and especially the new economy segments are developing very well in China, and it's gaining share on the GDP. So in this way, the China is successful. It's even successful in chips. There are some noteworthy breakthroughs in by SMIC and by Huawei, which is their partner. They are moving up very quickly. But there are also a lot of problems, as already Hansa told about. China is trying to move or change its model of economic growth, but it's not very successful. Here we can say that it's the industrial production which is still the driver of the growth. And on the next charts we can see that there is a changing structure, of course. The industrial production is not the same. The structure of economy is not the same as 3 or 4 years ago, and especially because of property sector problems. And the banks are preferring to provide loans, especially to manufacturing sector, and that especially to companies from the new economy. One of the most problem in China are high savings. This is the subject matter of our next episode in the podcast. China has really extraordinarily high savings, more than 30% of their income. And it's really ridiculous because the Chinese are still wealthier, but they are not spending the money. They have it in bank deposits, and they had it especially in properties. They have it in properties as well. So, especially in comparison with the United States, it's really alarming for China. Consumption is going down, still the trend is clear, and in the United States the trend is the opposite. Here is one of the key problems. The property sector is a big crisis. It's back in the sales. We are back in 2008. In the property prices, this is a good news, especially because China is regulating the prices, so the prices are not declining so much. But the construction activity really shows us that there's a lot of problems. Maybe some good news in 2025, so the next years. When I look at the structure of debts in the Chinese property sector, I saw that we could see the bottom because there's a lot of debts to be paid. So we will see how the situation will develop the next year. And this is the third problem of China, and this is high debt. China is not the most debted country in the world. Most advanced economies are more indebted. But the problem is that the advanced economies are wealthy already. China is not wealthy, it's still middle income. And still we are afraid that it can stay in the middle income trap. So this is probably what we wanted to say, and our question is whether the China will be strong enough to play a key role in the global economy, and if it will be able with their partners from BRICS to compete with United States and the G7 bloc? We don't know.
Again, I will try to simplify. We don't know what the future will bring, but what we see clearly, it's interest of China to export as much as possible, and they have only 4 products that have a top quality. Yes, they have Huawei, but there is a national security issue. So Huawei, and this is not about cell phones; it's about 5G and big infrastructure project. This is over. With even Bundestag, big friend of China, banning the 5G technology in German critical infrastructure. But they have renewables and they have automotive. Electronics, of course, Temu and Shane. If you see what how they are running now here in the West, it's a big success. Electronics is a big success as well, and chips for the future. So it's in their interest to export as much as possible. Simple cars, ICE to Russia. And to India and Indonesia, electric cars to us. So that's the future. Thank you for your attention. Let's because we overfilled to basketball, as we say. So again, because we are too enthusiastic, let's do 2-3 questions, and then you can we have the time, so we can talk freely. So, but let's do if you have some question that you think that people will enjoy, everyone, just ask. If not, we can have a drink.
So I will ask the first question. I must say it was a really nice lecture, but it was quite depressing, honestly. Is there any positive outcome that you see, or we are in really big trouble?
For whom? Chinese are in a
For Europe.
If we go, and the reason why I a little bit thought about basic economic theory, so I was thinking about whether there is some framework. We Europeans, we like frameworks, and in all these economies there is a little trick idea. So we are in big trouble because from national security perspective, automotive company that has a headquarters in Warsaw, and they are paying taxes in Warsaw, and there is a bilateral agreement. It's super complicated to hit them on this. They are selling. We cannot dictate the profitability. We cannot dictate this and that. So then we are in liberal economic theory. Do you have a good product or you don't have a good product? If you don't have a good product, you have a problem. And I think it was very, very telling what Dan was showing, that Chinese started building this 20 years ago. I have some relatives, my family relatives, they are engineers in BMW in Munich. They know they are behind. And the behind is like 5 years. A lot of in EV technology. The quality and especially pricing. Yeah, quality is there, but mass market pricing is not there. And a lot of things can happen in 5 years. So if we're projecting that Chinese will be growing, building factories, then problem of Donald Trump on the other side, inability of Europe to do something, and you don't have a product. So unfortunately, I think that even for foreseeable future, we will see LVMH, Kering, L'Oreal, and others, being on top of the European company chart, and pharmaceutical industry. So maybe, and this is happening to Finland. I was in Finland on Monday. I was talking to some governmental meetings there, and Finland now is not Finland 15 years ago. And it's not only about technology. It's not only about they miss the disruption. Also, if you look on the pricing of labor in Finland, even for high-end products like rolling stock, they are not competitive at all. And how do you change the whole society? It's very problematic. And now we have a right-wing government, liberal conservative government in Finland, and they are not able to do something about it. So maybe, and again, biggest problem for Germany and Czech Republic, maybe our future is not automotive. Like similarly, future of Finland is not cell phones anymore. And this happens all the time. So this is a very similar example. That I think that we shall really wake up here, that automotive is not a future for us. Because also, these companies, they don't belong to us. And similar, like chain companies, if they need to support, business here, they're shutting down factories elsewhere. So let's see what Oliver Blume will start doing. I would like to see the reaction on his article and final interview in the Financial about freezing the salaries in Germany. I think the German trade unions will have a real talk with him. And then, of course, he cares about German trade unions, logically. He doesn't care about Czech trade unions. So maybe we should start doing something else than cars.
So, any questions? If not, thank you so much for your attention. Thank you so much for being here. And I would like to ask you to go to another room. There is a networking session that will place in a second. So, guys, thank you so much.
Hopefully there is a drink, I need one.
Yeah. So, thank you so much for being here, and we will see you there.
See you, ladies.